Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we're talking about the water element, specifically about different tips, techniques, and ideas to add the water element into your magical practice. I've been working with the elements for the majority of my magical practice, and I found firsthand that it's really easy to get stuck in a rut. It's so easy to fall back into the same routines and practices that we do all the time, and that can start getting a little bit boring. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my own tips and practices for working with the water element that might allow you to add something a little bit different into your own practice. I would, however, love to know if you have any other tips and techniques that you work with within your own magical practice that might help other people expand their water element practice even further. So feel free to put those in the comment section, and it'll be really interesting to me and likely for lots of other people as well. So with that being said, let's get straight into some of these tips and techniques. The bathroom is a really easy place to work with the water element, as water is already an integral part of this space. We all have baths and showers, we all brush our teeth and wash our face, and so it's ideal for adding in a little bit of magical practice. Up first is one that many people will likely already use within their magical practice, these being ritual baths and showers. First, I feel I should clarify what a ritual bath or shower is. It's a shower or bath that is being carried out for a specific purpose or intention. Oftentimes, you'll see rituals, ceremonies, or spells that call for a cleansing ritual shower beforehand. This is designed to remove any excess unwanted energy from the day before you get started in spells and rituals. But you can also carry out ritual baths or showers for different intentions, to imbue happiness, joy, prosperity, abundance, good luck, love into your life. We can utilize the water element for this specific purpose, and we would do this in slightly different ways. The two techniques I'm talking about today can be used for both baths and showers. They will simply be implemented in slightly different ways. The first technique is a cleansing technique, and it doesn't require any additional items, only the element of water. Water is fantastic for washing away impurities and unwanted items. Think of a rushing river that can literally erode the rock beneath it. This is the kind of energy that the water element can bring to us if that's what we desire, and it makes for a highly effective cleansing agent. I will typically do this in the shower, but it will work for a bath as well. While you're in a shower, imagine that water glowing a vibrant blue. I really enjoy imagining it be a bioluminescent blue. Think of those beaches that glow with bioluminescence in the summer. That's the kind of color that I'm talking about. And as this beautiful, vibrant blue water hits you, it washes away any of that negative, awful, sticky energy that's stuck to you throughout the day, and it's going to wash it all down the drain. Now, if you can't visualize with mental images, you can simply verbalize it, speak out loud, or even speak in your head what it is that you want to be experiencing, as though you are reading a book. Because even if you can't mentally picture things, when you're reading a book, you still can fully comprehend what's going on. We're going to use a similar technique here. So if you can't imagine the water being a color, instead verbalize it. Internally or externally, talk about the color of that water, how rich it is, what it's going to do. It's going to pick up all of that negative energy and wash it down the drain. What is it going to look like as it washes down the drain? We're just going to be using a slightly different technique if you can't mentally visualize. Along a similar vein, you can do this in a bath as well. You're going to want to cup your hands together. As you cup your hands together or use some kind of cup or dish, you're going to want to be tipping the water over your head, allowing it to wash everything away. Same again, you can visualize it as being electric blue, or you can just verbalize it externally or internally. And then as you pull that plug, you are imagining all of this awful, sticky energy being washed off you and going down the drain. It's a really easy, effective technique that you can use for cleansing. It's ideal for just everyday cleansing situations, and you can do it as a part of your pre-existing shower routine. Now, another technique when it comes to using baths or showers would be to add external energy into that water to really amplify the specific aspects of the water element that you want to work with. So an example here would be that if you want a bath that will help relax you and bring you peace, you might want to include crystals around the edge of that bath, as long as they are ethically sourced and suitable for water. And you can also add in different herbs and flowers that are going to imbue that water with that energy. You might want to have a scented candle going, or perhaps a specific incense burning at the same time, and we are essentially creating a sacred ritual space in that bathroom that we can use to just sit and steep in that energy so that it attaches itself onto us, so that once we've left that bathroom space, that energy will follow with us. We can do this for lots of different intentions: prosperity, good luck, abundance, happiness, love, luck. All of these energies we can attune with and work with. This is also something you can do in a shower as well. You might want to have some candles or fragrance in that bathroom space as long as it's safe for you to do so. And then you're going to want to have a jug of warm water that's had some of these herbs steeping in it. This can then be tipped over you, allowing you to imbue yourself with that herbal energy whilst not necessarily needing a bath. So this technique is really good for people who want to sit in that energy for a while. It isn't something that I would do particularly frequently, mostly because I'm not really much of a bath person, but the shower technique is one that I will use on a weekly basis. I've really enjoyed using it for years now, and it could be worth trying if you just want a quick, regular cleanse. When it comes to having baths, another technique would be doing some water meditations. Now, while you can sit in a shower and do this, it is a little bit less comfortable than sitting in a bath. But you would come to that bathroom and run a bath with a thought in your mind, a question, something you want to mull over and think about. And while you're sitting in that water, you'll be requesting that the water element brings you aid in coming to a conclusion, thinking something over, or having realizations around a topic. You're going to want some dim, low lighting that's really ambient. You might want some music playing. And while you're in there, you're simply going to be sitting and contemplating. You might also want to have a notebook next to you to write down any ideas or thoughts that you're having at the time that you may want to implement later on. I find that I have amazing ideas when I'm in the shower, and I really wish that I had a shower notebook, so I might invest in one of those waterproof ones, because then I think I could write all of my ideas down far easier. You then also have the technique of floor and surface washes. The water element is, as mentioned, really good at washing away unwanted energies, and so if we wanted to, we could use certain waters. These could be spring waters or specific magical waters such as new moon water to add into floor and surface washes to be able to give us not only a physical clean but also an energetic cleanse as well. Now, this doesn't have to be just for cleansing. You can use this for anything. So you might want to shake up the energy in that space, in which case you might want to use lightning water. You might want to add a bit of solar, positive, abundant energy in, and so you might want to use sun water. If you would like to successfully manifest your goals, then some full moon water would be a good idea. These can all be added into a bucket of water with some soap that you're going to be using to clean and have a 2-in-1 effect. You can also clean strategically as well. So to attract things in, you would clean from the outside of that home into the center, and to cleanse things out, you would go from the inside of that home out. So be sure to dispose of that water with intention. So if there's something you really want to get rid of and you're going to be using the toilet to get rid of all of that waste grey water, it could be worth doing it with some words of intention and some serious energy to really drive the point home that this is energy that you want gone. You might do this in a different way if it's something that you want to attract or maintain. You might come at it from a different perspective with different energy and different words. These are all things we can use when we are simply cleaning our home. The other technique, as with baths and showers, is to steep herbs in hot water for extended periods of time. Drain all of those herbs away and then utilize that water to help cleanse or wipe down your space. You can use this on water tables, doorways, door handles, entryways, all these kind of places that often contain a lot of activity and a lot of energy. We can wipe these down with this specific water, not just for cleaning, but also for adding that intention into specific locations. So that is another option that we can adapt depending on what we have access to. Now, I have already mentioned them a few times already, but using magical waters is a great way of imbuing some of that water element into different practices. These waters are sometimes gathered from specific locations, such as swamp water, sea water, river water, spring water, or you can also charge water with intention, such as full moon water, new moon water, sun water. These would all be charged during a specific moon phase or specific event. So in the summer, it's really good to make some solar water that we can then use later on. These are all imbued with energy that layers on top of the pre-existing water element energy, and so it allows us to add additional intentions onto the water that we're using. If the water we are using is fresh and safe to drink, you can then drink it afterwards for about 3 days as long as it's refrigerated. But if we are using water such as seawater, bog water, swamp water, if we're also using water that we've collected ourselves just from the rain, these would be better suited for scrying and other forms of magical practice. But these can be added into almost all sections of this video, which could be useful if that's something you want to look into a little bit more. I do have a full video on that, I'll link it in the description box. Having just mentioned scrying, it's only fair that I talk about it next. Scrying with water is a really wonderful way of adding that water element into your practice without having to do spells and rituals. If scrying is something that you've wanted to look into, literally, this could be a good technique. For those of you who don't know, scrying is a form of divination that doesn't use predetermined tools and symbols. Instead, it is the act of allowing ourselves to zone out while staring into a particular object or item and allowing our eyes to zone out, essentially tapping into our subconscious and psychic minds to bring forth images, colours, sounds, smells that we can then associate with a particular question and a particular outcome. These are then all noted down in a notebook so that we can look back on them later. Scrying with water is ancient, and we can do it both inside the home and outside. Ideally, a small dark bowl is used, but if you don't have access to it, then any kind of bowl is suitable. I personally have a small black cauldron bowl that I use for this purpose. But you can also do it outside, so you can do it in the sea, in rivers, in springs, in ponds. You can do it with really any body of water that you like, no matter how large or small, as long as you're being safe while you're doing it. Ideally, you're going to want a dimly lit space, so you might want it when it's not direct sunlight if you are outside, something perhaps a little bit more dappled and shady, or you can do it in the evening as long as you're being safe, or if you're doing this inside, you can do it with candlelight or just dim lighting. Allow yourself to have questions in your mind, topics that you would like to think on and bring up as you stare through the surface of the water. We're not necessarily staring at the water, but we're also not staring at the base of that water either. So we're not looking at the bottom of the bowl or the bottom of the river, but we're also not looking at the surface of it either. We're allowing ourselves to zone out into this in-between zone. Water is incredibly closely associated with the Celtic otherworld. Water is closely connected with the otherworld, with the idea that a body of water can be a portal to spirits, information, and also a connection to the otherworld itself. We see this a lot in Arthurian legend, so this is what we're really tapping into when we're doing water scrying. It's not going to be a super simple, quick, instant process. Sometimes scrying can take years, even decades to master. But while you are sitting or standing there, staring through that water, images, sounds, smells might all come to you that you might want to note down for later use. Once you're done with a session, ideally I would say between 15 minutes to half an hour is an ideal kind of middle ground for how long you want to be doing it for. Take a look at everything that you got through, note down the different questions that you asked before everything came through to you, and see if you can develop any kind of ideas or connections with the things that you've seen with the question that you've asked. It's a really intense way of doing it, but it is a good way of connecting to our subconscious and psychic mind without having to rely on other tools such as tarot, runes, or oracle cards. Some of us are more interested in working with spirits than others, and while it isn't a necessity to carrying out magical practice, it can be useful if that is something you're drawn to. Water spirits and elementals can be powerful allies that we can connect with and work with. We can form symbiotic relationships with them where there's give or take. They can give us information and understanding, they can aid us with our workings, and we can listen, learn, be present, give energy, and give time back to them in return. Water elementals are found almost everywhere where there is water, though a lot of the time they might not want to interact with you. Water spirits are a little bit more few and far between. They are still able to be found, but they aren't guaranteed to be in every single location where there is water. So be sure to spend time around the water element in nature. Sit by a river or by a lake. Spend time by the beach where possible. See if you can find a spring in your local area that you can spend time around. By connecting with a space and allowing ourselves to be present, we are more likely to be able to recognize and acknowledge when these spirits start coming through to us. They might be dances of light over the water or in the corner of your eye. They might be the tinkling of bells or whispers on the wind. They might be smells or sensations that we are experiencing that we know to be other, to be not normal. And if we take a notebook, we can write these down, jot them down, come back every week or so to spend more time with them. And over time, that connection will be built. It's a little bit like growing friendships. You're more likely to become friends with someone if you spend a lot of time around them. You're also far more likely to be friends with them if you actually acknowledge them when they're around and you give them the time of day. If you're always on your phone, you're going to have a hard time connecting with someone because you're not truly being present. They're also likely to not want to be friends with you because you aren't wanting to connect with them. So be present in that space, spend time with them, and you'll find that your connections with spirits of the water and also elementals will start to grow. You can give back by interacting with them, communicating with them, making sure that they are safe and protected is also really useful. Give them energy, give them time, and some spirits, especially those that are more associated with the Fae, will also enjoy music and dancing as well, so that is also a good option. When a deeper connection has been formed, we can then call upon them in spells and rituals. You can ask if you can take a small amount of the water that they reside in, ask them to bless that water so that you can then use it when you get back home in your spells and rituals if you don't feel comfortable doing them out and about. Now, the water element doesn't have to be used as a standalone ritual. You can also include it in other forms of working. I will often use water as the final step to spells and rituals, especially those that are used for cleansing and for growth and nurturing. I'll often find that, for instance, an abundance spell works really well with the water element because water is the life force of plants that allows them to grow, to develop. We need water in order to survive, and so it can be used as a nurturing, growing agent for your spell as well. You can also use it to wash away things that you want to remove from your life. So the alternative to the initial working would be that you are burning things that you want to get rid of. When you've got that ash left behind, if you want to, you can dissolve it in some water and then allow it to break down completely before washing it away. You can also allow it to break down completely and then put it in the toilet and allow the toilet to wash it away that way. Just be sure that you are not doing this with anything that is going to get stuck, that's going to cause a hazard. I'm talking about the ash remains of burned petitions, where there's nothing left but ash, is what you would do in this kind of instance. Elements can also work together to grow and flourish. You just have to be careful about who you work with and which ones are working together and whether or not they feel comfortable doing that. Especially if you're working with elementals, you really need to get permission first. But if you're doing a spell for abundance and growth, working with the water element and the earth element is a great way to firmly root your spells and rituals and to ensure that they flourish. We can add the water element into our spells in this way, and you can also add it in if you want something really harsh as an outcome. So if you want to stop something in its tracks, you might want to use a candle as representation for the thing that you want to stop, and then douse it in water, especially charged water, as a way of driving that point home of you want this thing stopped. I would say though that in this kind of working, I wouldn't work with the elementals because you might find that you annoy some along the way. So just be careful with which spells you work with elementals and which ones you don't. If you work with jewelry and stones, the water element can be a really great way of also cleansing away any negativity, any leftover spell work if you do want to renew, for instance, your protection jewelry. It can be really hard to know when a spell has come to an end, and sometimes you don't want to layer spells, especially if they were for different things. So if you have a piece of jewelry that was originally for one thing and now you want to switch it out for something else, you might not want to layer two spells, one on top of the other. A great way of cleansing this away is putting it through running water, especially running spring water. You can do this with your crystals as well. If you would like to remove any unwanted energy that is on them, you can pass them through some spring water. Just be careful not to pass through any crystals that are potentially toxic, that will dissolve or in any way be impacted negatively by water. But if we're talking things like the quartz family, you will be completely fine passing them through water. Now, I did already touch on the idea of using the water element in other forms of spell work and ritual, but one specific one that I wanted to talk about was Sigil Magic. Now, Sigil Magic is a fascinating form of practice, and it's often one that many beginners start with, so if you would like to expand your practice out from that, add the water element into it. So there's two primary techniques that I'm going to be talking about. They are opposite ends of the spectrum. Of course, there's lots in between of these, but these are just two extreme varieties, and hopefully you'll be able to come up with your own ideas for everything in between. So if there's something we really want to get rid of, and I mean really want to get rid of, we can draw a sigil onto some toilet paper. This toilet paper can then be used, or not use, depending on how much you want to deal with a situation. And then with energy and intention, it is flushed away. Now be sure that you only do this with toilet paper or something that you can wash down the toilet. Don't do this with just standard paper. Make sure that it is toilet paper, but it can be a very effective way of driving your point home. The alternative to this would be if you want to create a sigil for something to grow in your life. So for instance, confidence. If you want your confidence to grow, if you take a piece of paper, this could be toilet paper as it's easy to break down, or standard paper, write your sigil with intention on that paper and then stick it in a cup of water. This water is going to break down that sigil. It's going to turn it into a mush that you can then add into soil, and then you can plant a plant in that soil and have that plant as a physical representation of the growth of your confidence. Now you can take this a step further and you can create poppets out of the solidified, mushed up paper that you get out of that cup, and you can use that poppet in spellwork and ritual, especially useful if you have created a sigil for yourself that represents you. You are then creating a poppet that represents you out of that sigil, and you can then use it in further spellwork and ritual. So there are so many different techniques out there. These are just a few options. You can also use water as the destruction agent for sigils, which can charge them as well. Heading back to the bathroom again, we can also use water magic in glamour spells. Glamour spells often involve the physical form, and so when we are washing our face, when we are washing our bodies, we can utilize sacred waters and charging the water that we're using in an act of glamour magic, which I think is really, really interesting. It's a part of practice that I've never really dived into, but it is something that could be really effective, especially if you do enjoy using sacred waters like moon waters and charged waters of the light within your magical practice. And then lastly, we have a simple form of divination, one that many of us will have carried out as children. To do this, you will need some running water. Now this technique is for yes/no answers, so we are going to select 2 leaves, one of which is going to be a yes, one is going to be a no. They need to be about the same size and weight, ideally. They're going to need to have identifiable features so that you can recognize which one is which, and then you will drop them both into the water at the same time, thinking of your desired question and asking the water element to aid you in your answer. As the water washes the 2 leaves away, you're going to need to have a marker point that once they pass, it will give you your yes/no answer. So this could be a bridge that is up ahead, this could be an overhanging branch, something of the like, and whichever one passes that branch first gives you an answer as to yes or no. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this all the time and clogging up waterways with leaves, but just a one-off occasion of a yes/no answer, the water will degrade those leaves really easily and it will add nutrients back into the system again. Just be sure that you're only doing this with leaves. I have heard of people doing this with non-biodegradable items, and I wouldn't recommend doing this. Not only is it damaging to the waterways, it's damaging to the ocean as well, and it runs the risk of also harming the animal life that's there, and that's not something we want to do if we want to more deeply connect with the water element. I do have 2 books that I would like to share with you. These books are not the only books on water witchcraft, but they are the 2 within my collection, and I have found them to be particularly useful. So the first one is Water Magic from the Elements of Witchcraft series. This was written by Lilith, Dorsey, and this is a Llewellyn book series. So there's actually 4 books, one for each of the elements. This is focusing on the water element, that's why it's part of this video, and it goes over lots of different crystals, items, spells, all different significant rivers, gods, goddesses, information from all over the world. So it isn't just British practice, this is practice from everywhere, and you can choose what you choose to take from it and what you leave behind, but it could be interesting to learn a little bit more about water magic. Now, for anyone who's interested, the back of the book reads as follows: A deep dive into the history, lore, and practice of water magic. The first entry in Llewellyn's essential new Elements of Witchcraft series, Water Magic reveals the amazing possibilities of using water in your modern practice. This mighty and life-sustaining element will enhance your magic and transform you into a more compassionate version of yourself. Sharing everything from washes and baths to spells and rituals, Lilith Dorsey is your esteemed guide to this sacred substance. Learn how to use the symbols of water in your altar work and the wisdom of rivers, lakes, and oceans in your divination practice. Discover water's relationship with the wheel of the year, explore its important role in cultures around the world, and meet the deities and mystical beasts associated with it. cleansing and strong, water helps you to get in touch with your intuition and improve your craft. So that is the water element book. The other book I have in my collection is Water Witchcraft, Magic and Lore from the Celtic Tradition by Annwyn Avalon. Now this book is obviously, as mentioned, more about Celtic traditions, whereas the Water Magic book is a little bit more global. So if you want to learn something beyond Celtic practice, then this one is probably your option. If you want to focus more on Celtic practice, then this one is more your option. So each of these books has a lot of good information in it. Water Witch, Annwyn Avalon, presents a comprehensive guide to Celtic water lore, including spells, rituals, water spirits, and merfolk. She explores the magic of the sea, but also features lakes, rivers, canals, swamps, and other watery locations, as well as the craft and magic that have been and continue to be practiced at these places. Within these pages, you will learn how to set your own personal water altars and shrines, gather or craft the magical tools of water witchery, and access the power of rain and ice. Most crucially, you will learn how to connect and communicate with the water spirits themselves. So both of these books are great, but personally I prefer Water Witchery, but this one is also really good. Neither of the books are bad. It's just a personal preference. So those are two options out there. There are many more books on Water Witchcraft. I would love to know if you have any recommendations for your favourites. Please let me know in the comment section. I would love to check those out as well. So that was a lot in one video. I apologise for how quick I had to speak to get all of that out. I didn't want the video to be too long, but I still wanted to put all the information in it, so I'm really sorry if that was a little too fast. If you need to, on YouTube, you can actually slow down videos. So I think you can have it all the way up to 2 times speed and down to 0.25. So it gives you a little bit of option if I am talking too fast. So with that being said, let me know your favourite techniques for using water in your magical practice. I would love to know. I think other people would love to learn as well. If you like this video, please give it a like. It means a lot to me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down in the comment section. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I try to post magical content every single week. So with that being said, I hope you have a marvelous magical day. I hope you're all staying safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!